But speaking of a team that did give their manager time, Arsenal came up against Chelsea in the weekend. If we shift over to Europe and we go to the English Premier League, they played. Yeah, it was an okay game, but Arsenal figured out how to win. Marino being the makeshift striker because Arteta, given time, will find a solution, I guess. And this then continues their
Chuck,
run. Yes.
Are you saying Arteta's Batman?
If he has prep time.
You give him prep time, he'll figure it out. Look at that.
But given enough time and with the personnel that he has, he's then extended his run, his undefeated run at least, against the top six in the English Premiership, and he's gone 19 games now without having lost to either it's either Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, or Man United. Obviously, Arsenal form the big six themselves. So, Jay, does this mean anything at this point in time? Like, obviously, there are no league titles to go with that, but his resilience and the fact that he can come up and play the big games against the big guys, regardless of whether you've got a Haaland, you've got a Bruno, but Arteta will find a way to, if not win, at least avoid defeat. Does that mean anything?
If Arsenal go on to win the Champions League, it means something. Because if they go on to win the Champions League, and now I've said to you, like at the beginning of the season when everybody was healthy, with the players down in those in that forward line, it's a bit tricky and a bit different. But I'd say to you earlier in the season, I think Arsenal are built to go and do well in the Champions League because they are defensively stout. And they don't play sexy football. It is risk averse, and in those knockout competitions, you want to not get beaten, right? Because that's the only chance you get. And then with the set pieces, you can go and nick a goal. So similarly to what you saw in the performance against Chelsea, not great on the ball, didn't have much of the possession, in fact, and then did get a winner of a set piece. And it's what we saw as well when Arsenal went down to 10 men against City earlier in the season, and they stopped playing. They decided to park the bus and absorb the pressure. I wasn't really even playing on the counter in that match, right? And they almost got there, but then there was the equalizer by John Stones with the last kick of the match. But when you look at that blueprint, that tells you that when you come up against the really good teams, you can hold them off. But also what Arsenal have shown is that, and in the Champions League, if they play against teams that don't sit in a low block, but who do want to play against them, they are better in those situations. And that's what you're going to come across in the Champions League. So that's why I say, Chuck, if they go on to win the Champions League, it means something because what we know is that there is a body of work that against what are the strongest teams in their league, they don't lose. But if that doesn't happen, Chuck, and it's another trophyless season, it means nothing. It is 19 games without losing against any of these big six teams, which is the equivalent of half of a 38-game Premier League season, right? But it doesn't mean anything. And these are the things that follow Arsenal. These are the stats that follow Arsenal. I remember when Arsenal finished in 5th place, losing out in the last 3 games against Spurs, right? I think Arteta's second season. They had a period where from the start of the Christmas period until the end of the season, Arsenal were in top 4 form. But then if you don't actually finish in the top 4, you miss out on the Champions League. What's the point of that? Last year, in 2024, Arsenal accumulated the most points of any team. So in the calendar year log, Arsenal finished on top. But do you win any trophies or medals for that? No, you don't. So, Chuck, if at the end of the season, what Arsenal then have is that, because I think there's one more game against the top 6 team that is coming up, that is Liverpool at Anfield. And they go there and they don't lose that one and they extend it to 20. But then they are forming a guard of honor for Liverpool before that match. It means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think I want to echo those last words you just said, Jay. I think it means nothing. It's great for the derby nights and when you play Spurs and you're like, how we did it to you again. When you play against the biggest team in England, in Man United, the most successful team in recent times in City, like we have the firepower to beat you. But if you're not lifting anything at the end of the day, because this winning run stretches, I think, back to 2023 at the latest in terms of their last defeat. There are no cups between then and now, and look, it's great. It's like finishing second. You must have beaten a lot of teams on the way there. You must have played good football on the way there. But then in the end, what do you show for it? Because as bad as Man United were, and this is the conversation that we kept having, as bad as United were, and they're probably the team that you beat the most in that run, they've got a Carabao, they've got an FA Cup, and somehow, someway they figured out how to do it. And that's the thing about winning. You have to figure out how to do it when it counts most. If anything, it says to me that Arsenal play the big games well. I don't know if they take their eye off when they get to West Ham, when they get to Brighton at the end of the season, at key times of the season, where you're like, but guys, you could have won that game. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but the big games they can show up for those games. So that Jay, I can't look at that stat and say it's a great team, because great teams win things. It's a memorable run. It's a great achievement, but are they a great team? I don't know if Arteta has built a great team, because after 56 years, we're getting to it. Newcastle has finally won something. All the noise that we had around Eddie Howe and all the money didn't mean much up until they could convert. Now, mind you, Slot, great team, but we're waiting for the conversion. Out the Champions League, out of didn't win the Carabao Cup final. So I think those things are great up until it comes to a halt. So I agree with you in terms of until you win something, it means nothing. It just proves that in big games, Arsenal show up.
Yeah, Chuck. And the thing is, right? Not all big games are created equal, because, and that's why I say, if you go on to win the Champions League, then you are converting your big game ability to when it counts, where you're gonna get something at the end of it. And it's not to say these games are useless. Of course, they're not useless, because you are trying to accumulate points in the league towards the end goal of winning the league. Because historically, in recent times, at least in recent history, Arsenal were accused of being soft and going into those big games and just absolutely crumbling, you know. And as an Arsenal fan, I'll say, Chuck, it feels good that you go into those games and you don't have a dread about, oh my goodness, I know exactly what's coming. We're gonna get pumped 5 or like in the first 20 minutes by Liverpool, or score 3 goals but like concede 6 against a Man City. That has come and gone, and what it does protect you against is banter, I suppose, right? But Chuck, if you are managing to not lose against the City in the one season, but they still pip you for the league title, what's the point? If you're managing to not lose against Liverpool this season, but they still pip you towards the title, what's the point? Okay, you are beating Man United at home, and then you're coming back on them when you're playing away from home. But this is not 2001, you know. Like, yes, you get bragging honors, but what does it really do for you? And I don't even talk about Spurs; they don't even count in this chat. And Chelsea as well. Like, Arsenal used to just falter at the sight of Chelsea when they were led by a Didier Drogba. But this Chelsea, and yes, the names are there, and you're not losing in these big clashes, and they mean something, right? Because of the marketing aspect of it, at least. But really, if you lose against Chelsea and you are cemented to be like 15 points behind Liverpool as opposed to 12, you're still 12 points behind. What's the point? You know, unless Liverpool go on in a historic bender and they absolutely bottle it in the most spectacular fashion, it doesn't matter.